Welcome to the KB Review podcast. I'm Andy Davies, and in this very special bonus episode of the show, I'm talking bathroom design with the brilliant Jorge Hernandez. Jorge is the head of design for bathroom brands, and as such, as we'll hear, he oversees all the designs for Crosswater, Burlington, Britton, Clearwater, and now Showerwall. A very busy and talented man indeed. And in particular today, we'll be discussing the importance of design differentiation. Now, Bathroom Brands is a very strong believer in applying good design across all its products at all price points and styles. And this, it believes, not only differentiates it amongst its competitors, but also gives its retailers the chance to differentiate themselves amongst theirs. So I'll be talking that through with Jorge in a minute. But first, Bathroom Brands is one of our category sponsors for the KBB Review Retail and Design Awards 2026. Entries are open now for the biggest and longest running awards in UK KBB retail, and it is, and always has been, totally free to enter. We've got categories for kitchen and bathroom designers, retailers, installers and suppliers, and all the information you need is at kbbreview.com/awards. That's kbbreview.com/awards, and that link is in the episode description. So let's welcome to the show Jorge Hernandez.
Hello, Andrew. Nice to be here.
Now, where are you today? Where are you?
I'm just in my loft in my house in southeast London.
Right, and I can see that because we can see each other. And I'm in my loft. Your loft looks much nicer than mine.
Oh, it's just a little bit of paint. That's all it is. And some good camera positioning.
That's what it is. But you can literally see the underside of my tiles here, so it's not quite the same. Speaking of which, about design, we're talking about design today. And in particular, as I said, we're going to be talking about how design can be a differentiator when it comes to business, I guess, and how it helps retailers just be a little bit different than the shop down the road. And really, it's why you've got your job. So you're the group head of design for Bathroom Brands. That's your official title, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
So talk us through what that actually means for an organisation the size of that. What do you do every day?
So yeah, as you say, as an organization that has a house of different brands, all with different missions, ultimately looking to equip our customers and the market with products. I look after the sort of creative aspect of product development, all the way from concept through to manufacture across all the different products and all the brands. We're just involved in the conceptualization, industrialization, and just making sure that it all works and it comes from idea to reality. And increasingly, that's tied up to, as I mentioned, the brand mission and what we're trying to achieve with each brand. So the role also spans into kind of thinking about the broader creative direction and the broader sort of roadmap that we map for each brand to make sure that we are driving, as you said, differentiation in the brands, to driving ultimately value to customers and consumers all alike, and everything in between. So it's a bit of a master of none role where you're kind of involved in art, engineering, speaking, and everything in between.
That is quite an unusual role in the UK. I mean, obviously, most massive bathroom companies are big European bases, but there aren't many of you in the UK.
Not so much in the bathroom industry. I think, there's less in that space. But if you don't have to look that far to find industrial designers everywhere, if you look in the automotive industry or so on.
The big bathroom companies are very sort of European based. And so it's great to have somebody like you in the UK who's doing this all from scratch. One of the things I always found fascinating about a company and a role like yours is you have to keep, as you say, lots of different brands in your head. You're dealing with styles and personas and individual missions of each particular brand, and you have to switch. It's like being multilingual. You're sort of switching from one to the other all the time. Like one moment you're Britton, and then suddenly you're Crosswater, and you have to switch your mindset every single time in every single conversation.
Yeah, definitely. But that's in a way what makes it exciting, and how different the brands can be as well when you consider kind of like Showerwall to Burlington. They're two very different brands to a different audience, different set of narratives, and having to actually handle both is what makes it really exciting and really diverse. So I think that's one of the special things about the group and how much we have to offer, that regardless of what brand we have, there is that sort of like design-led approach. That means that there is something to be tackled, and there's always a sort of next challenge and a bigger ambition to drive within each brand. So definitely something that is, to me, a plus.
Now, one of the things that, and it's a phrase I've always liked that Bathroom Brands uses all the time, is this idea of democratizing design. And the idea is, I guess, that every customer, regardless of where they are in the market, should expect good design. But can you just tell us a bit more about that philosophy? Because I think it really does set the context for talking about design in general, I think.
Yeah, it's a really broad kind of concept. I think the idea of democratized design can be broken down in so many different layers. I mean, one of, depending on your stance in it, you might think differently, but one of the companies that does that incredibly well is IKEA, in terms of how they democratize design and make design accessible. But we're not IKEA, and we're not democratizing design in the way they are. So our approach to it is very much in the acknowledgement of what happens in the world of luxury interior design, which is the area where often differentiation and uniqueness and freshness is appraised. And you kind of have this kind of face of newness that is always present because of the element of luxury that exists in it. So whether it's in luxury hospitality, for interior design, luxury restaurants, you always have this kind of concept of trying to drive something new, unique, and kind of progress the thinking. And our approach increasingly is to track, tie, and democratize what happens in the world of interior design. And it sort of stems from this philosophy that, whoever is taken on a renovation project is effectively undertaking a role of interior design, whether they like to acknowledge it or not, whether you're an installer or just a DIY expert, or, anybody who's doing it ultimately is doing interior design. And therefore, having products and having services that tailor to that experience and that support and empower people to have a good approach towards interior design in bathrooms is important to us. So that democratization of design has that twist into the world of interior design, and providing the mid-market, which is where we sit, with the products and experiences that you would normally see in luxury design.
It's such a great philosophy, and I think it really underpins what good design is capable of doing as well. Good design costs nothing. It's how you then apply that to whatever it is. It might cost them money, but a good idea, creative idea, costs absolutely nothing, and it should be available to everyone. So let's see how that looks then in sort of application. You're designing all this stuff, that's what you said there all day doing, and what does this mean though for the bathroom brand's customers, the retailers, and subsequently the consumer at the other end of the chain? What's in it for them? Why would they buy into brands that use design in this way? How does it give them differentiation, I suppose, is the question.
It's a good question. I think if we look at the sort of modern consumer and the way they kind of walking into the store now, they're increasingly walking in with a great amount of knowledge of what they want through just online research and through exploration of the market. So that differentiation in design is about providing consumers with an experience that's just different to what they can find online, because they can find everything they need online, but they're consciously stepping into a store to actually have a different experience that takes them past that point. So differentiation of design, I think, to us is about adding more value to that design experience, because they could just press buy online and get it all at home and do it all themselves, or pass it on to the installer. But by going into the store, what they're getting is that experience from the designers at the store, from the advice and expertise, and from the sort of inspirational aspect of going in somewhere, visualizing yourself in that future space, and then coming away hopefully with more knowledge and more inspired than before. And the market is really full of a lot of people doing relatively similar things. And what cuts through, I believe, is that design-led approach that when a customer interacts with the product, they have that aha moment of being incredibly satisfied in the way that a product works, or in the way that it feels, in the way that it's put together. And that is the moment, that's the experience that customers are looking for. So that's exactly what kind of we work towards to create those aha moments.
And I think as well, curation is a huge part of this as well. I mean, there is so much choice available, and there is so much product and brand out there. As you say, you can end up doom scrolling on your phone a million different images. And I think to have the idea that there is a collection of products that all are designed to go together, that there is a sort of thought or a philosophy behind a collection or a range of products, and then to talk to a designer in the showroom who can talk you through it, I think it's really important. There's just so much noise if you're starting out on that research journey, isn't there? That I think that element really, really helps, I believe.
Yeah. And again, the designers working in retail stores are so clued up now as well. They have such a depth of knowledge of all the brands and all the products that are out there, but also of design approach, how to design your kitchen in such a way that it works for you, for your different considerations, your family needs and so on. How to design a bathroom experience that is going to work for you and, long term, and it's going to deliver what you want. And I think because we are moving away from people seeing bathrooms as utilitarian spaces and in the home, and actually seeing them as a room to be designed and to be thought of as a space that will make you feel a certain way, as well as deliver a basic requirement of a bathroom, then the retailers have a huge level of influence over consumers now, and a huge level of responsibility in making sure that they're guiding those choices to be the right choices, so that people don't end up with just a bathroom caked in white with zero lighting considerations and zero ventilation, for instance, which we've seen so much of. And I think that the change is there. I think consumers don't want that anymore, but they're often afraid to take that step. And so, yeah, as you mentioned, being able to design for the full bathroom within the group, from the brassware to the furniture to the shower, and have all of it working together in synergy, whether it be through aesthetic ties, whether it be through functional ties, is what makes us, I think, quite special and different. And that we have the entire portfolio to offer. And we're looking for these sort of, combinations that offer the choice in personalization, the choice in accessibility, use, and make it super easy to design a space.
Talk to me a little bit about how you collaborate with those retailers and those designers. How do you get feedback from them to put into the mix when you're creating these products and ranges? They're on the front line there. They're the ones talking to the consumers. What do you learn from them, and how do you make that part of the recipe?
Yeah, it's always been hugely important for the group to have that collaboration with partners and just to go and hear from them. I think that's another thing that makes us quite unique, is our ability, or our willingness, I'd say, to go and just speak to retailers, hear what they have to say about what consumers want, what trends look like, what the sort of different needs and demographics, how they're changing, and then to respond to that in a relatively agile way as well, by bringing products to market that meet those needs. So it's a broad approach, really. First of all, is the acknowledgement that they have the insight from consumers, and they have a lot of feedback that we need to implement into our process. Then is going to see them in their spaces and to be supportive of their needs. But increasingly also is to bring them into our space as well and inspire them through our story and what we're trying to do, and hopefully put them in an environment, which is our showroom with our newly implemented design house, that will make them feel inspired to share this feedback with us, to share their ambitions with us, and for us to kind of collaborate on how to make that happen through an increasing growing portfolio of products and services that meet the needs of those customers.
That design house there, for those that are listening that have been to that showroom in Dartford, I mean, it's unbelievable, really. But right in the middle of it now, you have this design house. And it's, in a way, it's such an obvious thing to do, but I haven't really seen it really very much, particularly in this country. It is a space that its entire function is to sit down and talk about design with people. It is about a collaborative space rather than a lecture or a presentation. It's about sitting around a table and working on it all together. And it's such an interesting way of approaching it, especially if you're bringing in your customers to do that with. I think it's great.
Well, if you think about it, it's exactly what retailers are doing every day. They're bringing people into their showroom, and then they're sitting them down in and around them to inspire them and co-design their space and kind of make their dreams happen. We're just emulating what they're doing in an everyday setting. The difference for us is that space is, as it would with a retailer, I suppose, is also a collaborative space where our actual design work happens. This is where we keep all of our sort of references, all of our progress work, where we have our meetings. And so it was just important for us to make a space that worked for us, that reflected our story, and that also made our point when bringing customers into our HQ that's what we're all about. The design house is a perfect reflection of what we're trying to do and who we are and how we're trying to support customers in the journey as well. Think about when a customer walks in, going back to your first question on the online versus kind of in-store differentiation experience. When a customer walks into a showroom that has design spaces and they can see themselves in that space, visualizing as part of their home, they're instantly sort of imagining a solution to their current problems. They're instantly designing, and the retailer's there with them on the journey of advising and steering and suggesting things. It's very much the same thing for us, of bringing them into our showroom and showing them the ideas that we have for the future of what bathrooms could look like, the solutions that we're finding to everyday problems that we've identified, and asking for more. What else can you tell us? How else can we support in that journey? So it sort of tracks that process really well, I think.
And a big part of that, I guess, is understanding the functionality of these products as well. You can get very aesthetically lovely things, but they have to work. They have to work in people's homes. They have to be able to install them. You have to, they have to not fall over. And working with those people who do this stuff every day on the front line must really help with the sort of practicality of these products as well.
100%, yeah. And that's where, people like installers come in as well. It's so important to consider all of those needs. And we can learn from past experiences and from other examples in the market where the form hasn't followed the function. And that's fundamental to all industrial design, which is what we do effectively. Form must follow function. So we have to establish the function, and then the form can be shaped around it. That's absolutely critical. I think if you consider our design journey, is quite a complex one compared to other industries, in that we're designing for our customer, which is the retailer ultimately, who has to get behind the product, the brand, service and effectively become an ambassador and, an advocate for our products. But we also have to consider the installer in that journey as well, because if we don't bring them in, if there's an aspect of the installation journey that's a put off for them, then we're in the black books forever. So we have to meet their needs as well and understand them quite well. And then you've got the consumer as well, who's going to have their product in their home for many, many years. How can you meet all of those needs whilst also kind of not recreating another Me Too sort of looking product? There's so many considerations to have, and the only way that comes to success is through a collaborative approach to understand all of those needs along the way, which is why we're often reaching out to retailers, installers, even doing consumer research to try and kind of have all of those needs constantly reassessed and try and identify pain points that we can improve.
These are all the parts of the design journey that I think people don't consider as much. They think of design as being how it looks, but the design of how it literally functions and fits together and is as probably more difficult a part of design than the actual aesthetic bit of it. I suppose all of this really, for you as a designer, it's about trying to get as much understanding of what influences design, what trends are in design, rather than just only drawing from one bit of inspiration from one place. It's easy to go to a big show in Europe and look around all the fantastic looking things, but it can't just be that, can it? You have to get the complete picture, and only in getting the complete picture can you really think about how to differentiate.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the problem that I see with the industry now, which there are more people doing that approach, which is just to go somewhere and find something, bring it back and kind of make it seem like it's the most amazing solution to mankind, when in reality it's kind of just another replication of something that someone else thought of. So for us, that design journey is increasingly about identifying, as I said, pain points and trying to solve them, whilst also delivering value and delivering what consumers are looking for. And that's where the trend comes into it. And I know we do a lot of work in A&D projects, as you'd imagine as well. And then I speak to designers, and the designers like to think, I'm talking about interior designers, they like to think that they're outside of trend. And that's often the response, we don't follow trends. And I don't see anything more removed from the truth. Like, how can you not be influenced by trend? We're all constantly in the trend. It's demographic changes, it's generational choice. Like, all these things are effectively trends. So, and actually, I think I get their point in terms of saying we're not trendy. We're not just trying to do not Me Too products sort of thing or Me Too space. But the point is actually there's value in trend in that, it's what people want. People see certain things, they like them, and they kind of want to bring them and replicate them in their homes. And the frustration is when you kind of see something you enjoy and then you can't quite do it. Because no one is offering it, because you're kind of perhaps slightly ahead of the trend. So the trend element for us is not about sort of being faddy and trendy. It's about understanding what's going to be a big factor, what's going to be something people look for, and try to bring that in one form or another to the bathroom. And that ties back to what I said earlier about the interior design element and the luxury of interior design, in that if you're considering the bathroom as actually an extension of your interior design project in your home, you will want to create some cohesion. You will want to tie, whether it's finish, whether it's aesthetic, whether it's sort of colors. You want to create a journey in a way through your home that meets the needs of the spaces, but also tells a story. And that's what we're trying to do effectively in creating all these different products and analyzing trends and talking to customers and so on, is just to find the right products and the right value to customers.
And applying that across the whole of the sector as well, across all price points. That's what's so clever about all this. If you think of it like fashion, it's really easy to design for the catwalk. It's not easy to design something that will sell 1 million in the shop. It's really hard to do the bit of design that's actually on the front line that people are actually going to buy, and to differentiate within that is really difficult. And I think your philosophy that you apply to it all across the market is what makes it so interesting. You're not trying to desperately win awards at some crazy architectural design show. You're saying, no, Mr. and Mrs. Smith deserve good design in their house. Why not? Why wouldn't they?
Yeah. And in a way, we're trying to encourage the transition that is already happening, in a way of, if we go too far away from, let's say, the pack or the trend, then it's going to alienate, everybody. They're not going to want to buy into it. Whereas if you're close enough that people still recognize the shape or form, but that's got that distinct edge that makes it attractive and sort of ties to the home somehow. That's the sweet spot that we want to be in. That's the sweet spot where I think people will be persuaded by the aesthetic of a product to then perhaps design their bathroom in a more colorful way, or in a way that ties into their home more than perhaps if they just picked a more standardized product.
And reflects their personality more.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that as well.
Well, look, Jorge, we could talk about this all day, I think, couldn't we? And obviously you do, because that's your job. But it's such an interesting subject. So thank you so much for your time and for your expertise here.
No worries. Very happy to be